Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Exercise is Bullshit. I am joined today by the spiritual bodybuilder. Justin Vizakis joins us. You're going to have to tell me where you're out of, Justin. We just met, just learning a little bit more about you. But why don't you introduce yourself and kind of tell us who you are, how you got involved in fitness. Tell me about spiritual bodybuilding, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Logan, for having me on. I'm excited to be here. I am currently located in southeastern Florida near West Palm Beach. And how did I get started in fitness? Man, my story has been a very unique one. And I kind of started when I was a kid, playing sports and stuff. But to be honest, playing sports when I was a kid, I was kind of forced to. My parents were like, you're going to do this, to keep yourself occupied. And while I was good at it, I really didn't enjoy it. It wasn't until I really found bodybuilding, and I didn't find bodybuilding until I was 30. So, joined the military at 19, and of course, 10 years in the military, I was doing all military style stuff. Really, what the CrossFit world is basically what the military does, right?
Yeah, like strength and conditioning, big compound lifts, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I did a lot of running and did a lot of explosive kind of movements, and I went from infantry to the special operations community. I ended up joining EOD, got deployed to Iraq in 2009, and that was actually where I did my very first bodybuilding competition in Iraq.
In Iraq?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
So I was a team leader in a brand new EOD company. And I was waiting for one of my team members to come over. He was coming over late. First had some legal issues. So I had 2 months where I was just like the backup guys for everything. And in those 2 months, in Iraq, by the time I got there at that time, they had everything set up. So it was like a city. I was at Camp Taji in Baghdad. So they had these gyms that were like Lifetime Fitness, literally like
awesome.
like the military version. So I had just all the time in the world to eat and train and study and learn and so I took advantage of it. And about 2 weeks after I got there was a female that was a contractor for a phone company and who happened to be an IFBB Pro judge. She came over to me and said, hey, if I put on a show here, would you want to compete in it? And I was like, sure, why not? I got 2 months, to focus on this. So, and back then we didn't really have social media, right? We didn't have and being in Iraq too, I didn't have access to everything that we have here, but I basically back then it was the bodybuilding.com forums that I used to jump on. A few people on there just helped me, guide me to what books to read, what supplements to take. I did my first show all natural. I won the overall, and I caught the bug after that, man. And I was
it just you and a couple of Iraqi guys, or was it?
No. They're actually a bunch of service members, all guys in the military.
Awesome.
I think in my weight class there was four, maybe five guys. But overall, there was probably like 50 guys that all competed. And all the locals over there, the people in the Middle East, they got a thing, almost like a fetish for that sport. So it's a little weird, but for the most part, because we're on a military base, like it was mostly just Americans. But I got a lot of positive feedback, and that really started that next level of my journey. I got really serious into it after I got out of the military. And, for a while I was chasing that pro card, but I actually learned a lot more from the things I was doing wrong than the things I did right. And that's actually how I discovered and created spiritual bodybuilding, because, what I really noticed about me, when you get in this world, you're inevitably going to come into contact with PEDs, right? Performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah.
So when I got out of the military, I started jumping in, to doing it. At first, I actually started to help my mindset, because I was being pushed all this medication as I was getting out of the military. It was a really bad scene. I was starting to really feel like a shell of a man. There was one point I was on 16 different medications at once.
Jeez.
And I was like, I felt dead inside. I was like, I got to stop.
Was that for PTSD or what was
Ironically, the major things that I experienced over there, I got blown up a few times, but the really big thing was personality conflicts. And so I created a lot of problems by, not getting along with all the right people, if that makes sense. So as I got back, I was struggling with PTSD. Really, I was going through an identity crisis, right? I thought that going over there and being special operations, combat veteran was going to give me this feeling of pride and make me feel good about being a patriot for my country. When I realized all the corruption and just like the way things work is not the story that I created in my mind. And then I find bodybuilding, of course, but I couldn't really do like bodybuilding wasn't paying the bills or anything. So it was a hobby. So I had a really hard time doing both. And I just, and things kind of spiraled, for me for a little while. And honestly, after being on all those medications, I didn't realize this till years later, but it really kills your testosterone production. Yeah. So I just started, I started with Masteron and Primo, just like 300 milligrams each. And within like 3 or 4 days, man, I felt great. I felt like me again. And I just started taking all my frustrations out in the weights, and I grew and I did really well. But I got to a point, right, where I was really chasing that pro card, and I got to this kind of glass ceiling where I got to about 235, 240 pounds, and I just couldn't get bigger. And in order to really compete at the national level, I had to go up to the heavyweight level. I was competing as a light heavyweight. And when I tried to make that jump, man, those guys are superhuman up there. I went to the nationals in 2013, and I thought I looked pretty damn good, but standing next to those guys, I was like, they were in a whole different class, right? Yeah. And then so I went to hire a coach, and just realized the amount of drugs that I had to take to really gain that size. It was so unhealthy. I took a step back, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to risk my health or my life for this. But I also realized that emotionally speaking, when you jump on PEDs, it strengthens the ego. It really gets you locked in your mind, right? And it took me a while to really understand this. Actually, when I drank ayahuasca for the first time, it's really what helped me understand this on a very deep level. But I started operating too much from my ego, and I disconnected from my heart. And I started to make decisions in life that weren't in alignment with, I'd say, my soul's desires. So I would manifest these things, and I was staying in great shape, right? But I became a bit of a narcissist, right? I was just chasing women and chasing sponsorships and chasing all these things that nothing was really like. If I got it, then I didn't really want it when I had it. If I got a sponsorship, then it was like, but I want this bigger one. I want this better one. I want more. So everything that I actually got, it was never enough. And so it was that constant chasing, right? And especially, with women, of course, after breaking a few hearts, I manifested this one woman that, cracked my heart open, and I fell madly in love with her. And then I sabotaged it, and it completely broke my heart. So, as we do to others, comes back to us in some form or fashion eventually to teach us that lesson. And man, was that a tough lesson. So that's really, after 2013, my 8th show, I think, it was the USA Nationals in Miami, and just everything that could have gone wrong did. And I stepped back from bodybuilding for a while, and right around that time was when I started massage school, and then I found ayahuasca and plant medicine, and that just completely changed the trajectory of my life. And when I started doing the inner work, and I started, studying fascia and the deeper parts of anatomy and physiology and biochemistry and biomechanics, right? I started to really realize just how rigid my body was. And in fact, about 2 months into massage school, I had been wired tight ever since. That's the only thing I knew. I grew up in Boston, right? Oh. So everything is shut up, don't feel your feelings, handle your business. Like, you got to work and suffer to make ends meet, right? And so all these belief systems, they were wrapped up in me that was keeping me feeling stuck, So anybody out there that feels stuck, it's really just because you're not listening to your heart, right? The wrong part of you is you're using as your GPS. You got to slow it down, not speed it up. So that's what I was starting to learn. Before we would do any massage, we had to get into our beingness, take a few deep breaths. And at first I was like, this is retarded. Like, I don't like beingness, really. Yeah. And of course, at the time, still, I was taking Adderall during the day. I was taking Ambien at night. I was trying to kick all that stuff, right? So I was all kinds of out of whack. After about 2 months of doing that every day, right? Getting in my beingness and slowing down and getting ready and tuning into my feel and moving and doing massage work on people. I started getting this massive, crazy cluster headache that started in the back of my head and shot behind my right eye. I'll never forget that feeling. And one day I got so bad, nothing was working or helping. So one of my classmates was like, "Hey, can I help you out? Let me try some stuff and see if it works." Right. So he just put his fingers in my CV4 joint, which is right here at the back of the head, where the cranium meets the neck. Right. Gently, just put his fingers there and my head just sank into it, and I literally shot out of my body. And I felt like I went into like an acid trip. I started hallucinating, and I was traveling down this very dark, it was like a wormhole. And I felt like demons were trying to grab me. And like, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I thought I was dying or having a seizure or something crazy was going on, right? But I wasn't conscious during this process. So I was flopping around like a fish, apparently. Like my body looked like it was having a seizure. And after a little while, I don't really know how long, but after a little while, I stopped feeling like these demons were trying to get me. I started feeling more protected, or like moving down this wormhole. Like, okay, I'm not dying. I'm okay. Like, I'm just going to surrender into it, let it happen. This went on for about 2 hours. Okay.
Jeez. Just from this guy touching your cranium?
Well, when I woke up, there were 3 other people around me. So apparently, around the time that I started feeling protected, these other people came around and they were just, I don't know, doing energy work on me. And at this time in my life, I didn't understand what any of that shit meant. Right. So all this happened, mind you, it was in front of 27 people in the middle of school. Right. So I felt like I got hit by a truck. I was crying, and my body was just completely exhausted. And I asked the teacher, I was like, all right, what the hell just happened to me? Do I have to go to the hospital? Do I have like a medical emergency? What is going on? And he just laughed. He was laughing. I was like, all right, well, this is going to be a good one. He just said, this is a special treat because all you guys just got to see the most intense SER I've ever seen in my life. I was like, okay, well, what is SER? Yeah, it is a somato-emotional release, right? So we hold on to emotion in our fascia, right? So I had built up this armor of protection around my body from being in fight or flight for my whole life, right? My nervous system was completely locked in it. So when I finally slowed myself down, it started to allow my parasympathetic nervous system to balance up and catch up. So finally, after 2 months, my whole body had to go through that very dramatic process because I've built my fascia up and strengthened it in a very rigid, limiting way. So I was like, well, wow, this all makes so much sense, but what do I do now? Right? Like, what does this mean? Where do I go? Where do I, go after this? Because after this, I didn't want to keep weight training. I broke up with my girlfriend. I didn't want to eat the same foods. I didn't even want to live the bodybuilding lifestyle anymore. I was like, I can't. The good thing is though, is because now, like, I had just started doing this new thing, practicing massage therapy. I was like, I'm just going to take on clients and just practice getting really good at reading the human body. And as I started doing that, people just started coming into my life, clients and whatnot, and teaching me little things about myself and about being an empath. I didn't even know what an empath meant back then. And so apparently I have a gift. And through doing these practices and this work, it taught me that I'm able to really process energy through my body and help clear it out of other people's body. The first time that happened, I was living in Las Vegas at the time, and I was working on this female. She was a server at one of the day clubs in Vegas, and I remember I was working on her lower back, and I just got this random vision in my mind, kind of like a dream, right? And in my third eye, and I saw this little girl getting into a car accident and crying out for her mom, really scared. And so normally I didn't think anything of it because it's happened before. It was like very subtle, but this time I got curious. I was like, I wonder what she might say if I bring this up. So I was like, what the hell? I'm just going to try. So I was like, hey, real quick, like, were you having a car accident when you were a kid? And she looked up at me crying. She looked at like crazy. It's like, oh my God, I was literally just felt like I was reliving that experience where I was in this car accident when I was a kid. How the hell did you know that?
Crazy.
And that's when I realized, wow, what does this mean? Like, I'm onto something here. And as I went through, as I went through my journey of doing body work and then also working with plant medicine, and I do astrology and then microscopy and all these different outside the box ways of interpreting the body and bringing it back into alignment while I'm doing my own work on myself. I started incorporating all of these energetic metaphysical components into understanding how the human body speaks to us and what it's trying to teach us, right? And so now, I can look at anyone just through the way they talk and they move and they train. I can tell their belief systems, their behavior patterns, how they get stuck, where they're at in their own way, and then teach them how to also break free from it as well. And, everybody is at their own place, in life with this kind of stuff. But this is kind of what created the foundation of spiritual bodybuilding.
That's awesome, man. That was a super long-winded but really interesting answer. No, like I didn't want to interrupt you the whole time because I can tell how passionate you are about it. The next logical question I feel like that I'm scared to ask would be, what do you think about what's going on with me? But I don't know if that's the conversation for this podcast, but I definitely resonated with a lot of stuff you said. Maybe you can tell me that off air after we talk for a little bit longer. But yeah, so you kind of led into what sort of led you here. Tell me a little bit more about what is spiritual bodybuilding. Is it specifically coaching for men? Initially when you reached out to me, I thought, oh, this is just another bodybuilding coach. But obviously looking at your website, learning a little bit more about you, you do a ton of different stuff, which you've kind of touched on there.
Yeah.
So what is kind of your maybe elevator pitch for somebody who comes across your website and is like, I just wanted a fitness plan. I don't know if I need to do all this other shit. How would you kind of pitch yourself, because you're obviously very passionate about it, as to kind of what your approach is and how you maybe differentiate from other coaches?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So I like to think of myself as an activator, right? Typically, people find me in their life when they're in a state of transformation or when they're ready to transform or shift from one chapter of life to another. But I also meet people where they're at. So if people just want to train, then I'll show you how to train. But when I show someone how to train, I'm going to teach them how to breathe with their movement, how to visualize what they're doing, slow everything down. Typically, people, when they train, at least from my experience with weight training, it's like people are trying to get somewhere, right? People rush through it, or they use aggression in order to dig deep. So when we do that, and I wrote about this in my book, The Biohacker's Guide to Spiritual Bodybuilding, but when we use our aggression, that number one is a prime indicator that you're stuck in fight or flight, right? Number two, it keeps your cortisol pumping like crazy. So you're actually going to be you're kind of hurting yourself while you're breaking things down. Now, the breaking down is a part of the process. However, I like to counter that with being able to find balance in your mind, using a meditative flow-like focus to dig deep and to contract the muscle tissue, as opposed to using anger and aggression and adrenaline, right? When we can use a focused meditative state, that keeps the cortisol balanced, and it actually allows lactic acid to flow much better. It optimizes the Bohr effect in the body. It creates much more cognitive strength and coherence. And it really brings you it's a good practice for coming into the present moment. For me, other people sit in lotus position and breathe in and out and try to clear their mind. I can't do that shit, man. I'm not built like that. And a lot of people aren't, especially like people with alpha type personalities. That's not how those personality types operate. So to me, meditation is essentially finding your way into the present moment and fully experiencing the present moment in whatever you do. So my guidance is teaching people wherever they're at how to bring their presence mentally and physically into the present moment and operate from that space, right?
Is that reflective in there? You mentioned kind of rep cadence and how fast people typically kind of move. Do you tend to recommend like a slower rep speed, like more just muscle activation as opposed to just like momentum driven movement? Is there a particular cadence you work with? I kind of come from like a super slow background. That was how I sort of got my foot in the door with personal training.
Yeah.
I don't really practice that anymore. I'm more like modified high intensity training, I would say.
Okay.
But I definitely move slower than most people at the gym for
Yeah.
sure. But I'm just interested on what kind of your thoughts are with people when they come in.
It's different for everyone. So I would say, as a general default consensus, most people need to slow down. Okay.
Yeah,
Some
I would
people
agree with
can
that.
speed up,
Yeah.
right? But it's also the context around it, right? So if you're going slow, are you also using your breath and bringing your mind into a slow space, or are you going slow because you're distracted and thinking about other shit, right? So you have to really. It's about getting in their head and figuring out where they're at and helping them get from there to here.
Okay.
Right.
So specifically with the training aspect, and I want to kind of dive into some of the other areas that you cover too. I saw on your website you do like virtual coaching. Is
Mm-hmm.
that, are you training somebody one on one? Because that's what I do, which is kind of unique in the virtual or online fitness space. Like I work with people on Zoom or FaceTime or
Like
whatever,
while
and I
they're training.
physically take them
Oh,
through a
okay.
workout. Is that something you do, or are you more just coaching them before and after kind of thing?
Yeah, if I'm going to personal train someone, it's going to be in person. For me, I feel that for me to operate that like in that context, I have to be there with them.
You can feel the energy kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But for the online coaching I do, that can either be astrology readings. It's really reading their energy and wherever they're at, helping them structure and plan out lifestyle habits and patterns. And also, too, what I've noticed just in the last couple of years with a lot of people I work with, helping people get honest with themselves. We all create stories, like especially when you go through some hard times, right? When you're coming out of that hard time, sometimes we have to create concepts, philosophies, ideas, and stories in order to make it through that hard time. But nothing lasts forever. So once that ends and finishes, now we have to rewrite that story. But it can become trapped in our unconscious or subconscious mind. It even gets trapped in our fascia, right? So helping people to get honest with themselves about where they're at and where their behavior patterns and habits are getting them stuck or self-sabotaging or keeping them from getting them to where they want to go. So a lot of times, I will have people get their diagnostics done, like blood work or like biome test or whatever diagnostic we need to get to be able to have as much information as possible that's required to get to their intended goal, right? And then so online, I can identify. Okay, we're going to start with these 3 goals, and then when we start with that, how well did you, how well did you adhere to these goals? What did you struggle with? What was easy? And then we add on another goal over the weeks and months, to finally and permanent. My intention is to permanently shift not only the life direction, but the physiology, the belief systems behind what they're doing and why, where they feel stuck, right? And having the courage to make the decisions to cut things out that are not healthy for them. And that is a huge one.
Yeah, no, that's all. So would you say you're more of like, or I guess now it's kind of life coaching along with, health coaching or personal training? Like, is that sort of your philosophy? Imagine I come in, right? So
Yeah.
I found your website, I'm coming to you and it's like, Justin, what are you going to do for me? How are you, like, I've got all these problems that I'm struggling with. What's this program going to look like? And obviously it's very customized to the person in front of you, but just think a general person that's coming in, they want to lose weight. Maybe they're struggling with identity a little bit, maybe a little bit of midlife crisis kind of thing. What are you kind of taking that person through?
Well, initially, I do a mandatory 30-minute consultation just to feel each other out and to get an idea and an understanding of what I do, because really a lot of the stuff that I do, I've created and customized, and there's no word really for it. That's why I say I'm an activator. But what the hell does that even mean? Right. So I I guide people through transforming their lives emotionally, spiritually, physiologically. I've helped people, get over. I have one guy, he shattered his hip in 9 places. I worked with him for 6 months, got him on peptides and body work and vibroacoustics and red light therapy, and we had him good to go in 5 months. I had another client that got a full and total knee replacement, right? Got him 100% in 6 weeks, all right, and he was 64 years old. I work with families that are having very destructive personality patterns. This family hired me to work with their 18-year-old son, right? That he was about to either go to jail or get some really bad was going to happen, and end up working with the mother, the father, and the son, and healed a lot of these family generational issues, I would say, belief systems, behavior patterns, and helped each of them see how they were getting in their own ways and how it was reflecting with them, right? So I help people evolve in consciousness, and it reflects in the body, mind, and spirit.
That's awesome. That's definitely a unique business proposition for most people that maybe, stumble across you on Instagram or something. I was like, this guy's jacked. I want to work with somebody who's jacked like that. So talk to me a little bit about the ethos of spiritual bodybuilding. So you kind of have, I believe it's 6 sort of foundational things that you do, and maybe just give me kind of a little rundown of each of them. So we have embodied discipline, healing the shadow, clearing emotional blocks, spiritual awakening and trauma, masculine leadership, conscious optimization, brotherhood and initiation, which I love, and then the sovereign legacy. So kind of give me like the highlights of each of those and how they kind of play into what you do.
Sure. So I feel these behavior patterns that sit behind the belief systems that we all have, right? Authenticity is the highest vibration that we can operate from, and I feel like in our society that has been lost. Like going in the military and following, the brotherhood and the ethos of how they come together taught me a lot, but it also showed me some limitations as well. So I feel that is our duty as men to live authentically and with integrity to just being a good person. Now, what does being a good person mean? You can go back to the 10 Commandments, right? But in this modern day and age, sovereignty, true sovereignty, means that you are a stoic. You are a master of yourself, but you are humble. You're grateful, but you can fuck around and find out, pardon my language, right? Like you're a dangerous individual, but you choose not to engage in that. You are kind, but you're a kind man, but you're not a nice guy, right? You don't let people walk all over you, and that requires having healthy boundaries. But these all require you knowing yourself. So the number 2 in there is probably the most neglected and most important part of it is healing the shadow and integrating the parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at, right? Putting the blinders on and just going hardcore, that way does not work anymore. And the direction, like I heard something last year with all the changes that are going on in the government, in our country, right? Saying that we are in an age that tests men's souls. So people that are corrupt, people that are saying one thing and doing another, right? That's the problem with the world. That's why we're having all these issues in the world. And men are meant to be conscious leaders. So you have on the one hand, you have the ego-driven, that the kind of hustle, mindset where you got to work. Yes, you need to build an empire. We all want to build an empire, right? But how much are you going to sacrifice? Are you going to let all your relationships go down? Are you going to, are you going to sacrifice the things that have been supporting you and holding you down in order to be able to create this great thing? Then when you get to that great thing, what's going to happen? You're just going to want more. You want it bigger. You want, right?
Yeah.
So it's finding balance, but also not being afraid to ask for help, right? Allowing yourself to admit that you're wrong if the outcome is not of the highest vibrational, good. Letting go of expectations, but doing the right thing with integrity, when no one's looking. All of these things, and look, you can't ask and or tell someone else to do that without doing it yourself. And I, for one, I'm not perfect. Nobody out there is, right? So for me, my approach is really, hey, I'm putting it all out there. These are the things I struggle with. These are the things that I'm good at. But like I need brothers by my side to help support me, not judge me. Right? We got enough judgment out there, in the world, for 12 billion people.
Yeah.
But we also don't want to coddle, and we don't want to enable victim behavior. I feel like victim mentality is a massive problem in our world, and a lot of men too. There's so much pressure on us to produce and get out there that we end up self-sabotaging things when we can't handle the expectations that we set on ourselves, right? So surrounding yourself with people that inspire you, that want to build you up, or wherever you're at in your life, you got to honor and own that part of your life, right? So if you need to work one-on-one and you need to be a hermit for a little while, then you go ahead and you be a hermit. But while you're doing that, don't lay on the couch and watch Netflix all day. You practice breath work. You do the inner stuff, right? You handle all the shit that helps to quiet the mind, because really a quiet mind allows the heart to speak. And when we allow the heart to speak, that becomes the GPS guidance system that brings us to the places where our soul wants to go. I can't tell you how many, older, when I say older, I'd say, 60 and above, right? Older people that have, they've worked and they've done these things in these chapters of their lives, and there's always some kind of regret. There's always some kind of, I wish I could have done this better. I wish I would have, learned this earlier. And me for one, I don't like we're all going to mess up, right? But you learn the lesson, then you employ the learned lesson to the next chapter, and you continue to get better. And yeah, we're all going to stumble, we're all going to fall. But when you surround yourself with people that have the same ethos and the same, energetic calibration, if you will, right? Which means that you have to be there first. As we, you ever notice that, you may go through chapters of life where friends come in and then suddenly they're gone, and it's like they never even existed. Suddenly they're just disappeared, right? That means that we've gone to a different frequency, because everything is really based on frequency. We've gone to a different frequency. We learned what we need to learn and experience what we had to together. And now you're going to this new place. Well, while you're in this new place, reinvent yourself. Come back and ask yourself, am I being integral? Am I doing the right thing? Or am I saying I'm doing it, but then going behind the scenes and, not? That stuff, it's showing up, man, right? So we have to show up for ourselves, but also be willing to be called out. And those 6 steps, or those 6 philosophies, I feel are the foundation to being able to live your best life. And it's a practice. It's like an art form and a practice. It's not something that you're going to be perfect at every single time. You have to constantly be checking in with yourself and ask yourself with every decision, especially life, decisions that will change or alter the direction of your life, whether you're going through a divorce or you're changing jobs or starting to start your own business or having a child, right? You can say, hey, I'm going to be the best dad ever, or I'm going to, this divorce is going to go this way, or this new business is going to look like this. Look, especially in this day, we don't know what's happening. We're in uncharted territory on multiple levels in this day and age, right? So sticking to the fundamentals and trusting what the heart tells you, I feel when we learn to trust that process and align to the things that we know are the best for us, the good things will come in. They will be attracted. We become a magnet in this alignment. And then with that alignment, things that are attracted to that alignment come in. But if we're not in alignment, things that are outside of alignment are going to come in and teach us the hard way that, hey, we need to get in alignment. And what I've noticed over the years is that everybody that's the fundamental process we go through, right? So the bottom line, number one thing that you need to do for yourself out there is get yourself in alignment, and then create a daily habit of doing everything you can to stay there. You're inevitably going to fall off every now and then, right? But one side of things is what's going on out there, but another side is what's going on in here. How do you talk to yourself? How do you beat yourself up? I mean, I beat the crap out of myself, or at least I had in the past, right? And that's something that I really struggled with letting go. I'd say, plant medicine was that was a really number one thing that helped me to learn how to love myself more and have more gratitude for the things that I do have in my life, and literally just for having my health.
Yeah, Justin, I mean, so many things you said resonated with me. I want to talk to you more about this off air as well.
Sure.
But just from a potential client perspective or listener's perspective, what could people do? Like if they resonated with what you're saying, if they're feeling maybe a little lost, they want to get some realignment, they want to, find that magnetism that you're talking about. What's the best place for people to start? Is it buying your book? Is it trying to set up that initial consultation? Is it just, going to Peru and doing ayahuasca right away? Like, what would you say is kind of the first step to maybe learn a little bit more about what you do or how to start to integrate some of these things that you've been talking about?
Well, you can go to my website, optimizinghuman.com, and go to contact us section and then write me a message. If this information has given you more curiosity and you want to see or feel the bigger picture, then go ahead and get my books. Those two books, I poured my soul into those, and those really explain who I am at a very deep level. And then, you can check out my IG as well, spiritual_bodybuilder. Those are, I'd say the three top options that you would have. And, I am here to serve, and, I'm here to help people and build community and do things the way that I see, can be done the better way. And I try to be an example through taking action on my beliefs. And I do the best of my, ability, one day at a time. I'm just going to live one day at a time.
Yeah, I love that. Just as far as getting started, other things that people can maybe do and I'll put all those links that you mentioned in the description for this podcast as well. But is there anything like today that somebody that's listening to this that maybe doesn't know if they're ready to reach out?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is maybe like the one or two, maybe three foundational practices that anybody can just start incorporating today? And I know you mentioned breath work, perhaps journaling, something like that. Anything that stands out to you is like, here's a first step, an action item that you can start doing right now and see if that changes your perspective on reality.
Change your state. That's the phrase that comes to mind, right? So for anybody, if you're in a place that you don't want to be, you change your state. Tony Robbins talks about this all the time, right? So take some kind of action into something that's going to put your mind into that action and not where it is now, right? And if you can take that and rinse and repeat it over and over and over again, of course, whatever it is you do something that is self-loving, right? Meaning that's taking care of yourself, that's healing yourself, that's detoxifying yourself, right? Take a walk in nature, or go, smash some weights, or go rollerblading, or go to walk your dog, or go have that conversation that, whatever it is, wherever you're at, whatever circumstance, change your state. If you can follow that one rule and you can apply it even in the middle of a trigger, now that's a trick. When we're triggered, right, we tend to, if we're not able to disconnect ourselves from that taking over, then we become unconscious in that moment. So really, the bottom line of really all of this training, all of this inner work, is to be able to control the triggers before they control us, right? Because a trigger is our teacher. It's not a mental disorder. It is not an unforgiving or a death sentence, if you will, right? That this is specifically the one thing that keeps us out of the present moment. And it's wired into our central nervous system, which is why it's so important to do everything we can to bring the nervous system back into alignment. Even when we're doing things like weight training, it's all possible, right? And it's all about bringing the present moment, because when we're in the present moment, then we're able to feel and process our environment and everything that's going on. So when you change your state, then you're able to do just that. You bring yourself back in the present moment and from a different activity.
Yeah, I love that. That's great advice because it's so easy, as most people know, to just kind of get lost in those thoughts and lost in whatever it is that's consuming you at the moment. And before you know it, you've spent half an hour, 2 hours, the entire day just thinking and ruminating about this one thing. And just to find an activity that can, give you that moment of relief and kind of take you out of that and get you more into the parasympathetic system, I think is just a great tidbit for people. Justin, this was awesome, man. Not what I was expecting at all. I don't know what I was expecting. I don't think we even talked about exercise, really, but it was great.
Yeah.
I would love to have you back on in the future. Maybe just talk more about like your training philosophy. I think that'd be really interesting to hear. Maybe how you incorporate some of these mindfulness techniques into how people actually work out when they're training with you. But
Absolutely.
you're a really cool guy, man. I hope some people
Thank you,
check you
brother.
out and maybe you get a couple new clients from this. And yeah, I'm excited to talk to you more just in the future, man. So thank you so much for joining us. Thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you check out Spiritual Bodybuilding. What's the website again? Again, I'll link it, but
optimizinghuman.com.
optimizinghuman.com. And he's got all his book links. He's got all his about information. You can see all the services and everything there. So make sure you guys check that out, and we will see you all again soon. Thanks so much for joining.
Appreciate you, brother.